What's up, Flip Factor family? This is Michael Green with the Flip Factor Podcast, the number one podcast dedicated to teaching you how to find and win high profit flips and manage contractors so you can make more money and have more freedom to do whatever the F you want out there with your money and your time. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to design on a dime for house flippers with Delante Desouza.
What's up?
What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I like being here. Good stuff going on.
Sounds like you didn't have much else going on.
Actually, no, I didn't.
He did not have an audition. Hey, you know what? You don't have a lot going on. I'm going to use up some of your time, man. Thank you for giving. You know what? Thank you for giving back cool stuff to the listeners. I'm sure they're very appreciative. And, Delante is becoming a pretty big star, so we might not be able to afford him eventually. Right now, we're paying him $10,000 an episode, but if he gets any higher, I think I got to cut him out.
Yeah, can't promise my rates are going to stay that low.
Well, come on, man. I'm your buddy, man. You got to give me the family discount.
Is that the homie discount?
Exactly, man. 10,000 pesos, right? 10,000 pesos. No, hold on. What is it that we have in Costa Rica? Oh, 10,000 colons.
Yeah.
I think that's like $4 American. That's what we're paying him in. So everyone, thank you for coming on the show. We got a cool subject today. Let's jump right into it, Delante. I know you got some cool questions that people have been asking, and we've been trying to answer questions on the podcast because I realize that the questions we hear the most are the questions that a lot of people want to hear about, and it's the content that you want. So we want to make sure we deliver it to you, and I want to give you a lot of content with no fluff. All right, let's just jump right into the big subject of how do you design your house on a dime, so you can keep it on budget.
Very interesting topic to talk about. Just to kind of give an intro to this, a lot of times I see on like Facebook groups, our Facebook group, as well as like other, mastermind students ask about design choices for their flips, like, what tile they should use or like what flooring they should use, what kind of countertops, all that kind of stuff. There's always this battle that happens, right? Between wanting it to not look like slumlord landlord renovation. It got like... Yeah. Yeah, like just bad, I guess. But versus like bringing in like marble from France for like your kitchen countertops and like just having the most expensive materials in your house, right? What do you think about, like, what are your thoughts on designing and like designing affordably?
Well, we talk about designing on a dime, and a show I used to love is called Design on a Dime. And these like really big buff gay guy would come in. He was like a super musclehead, but he was also gay. But that's like the contrast that made him so interesting to watch. But him and like a team of some girls would come in and they would design like a whole room for like a $500 budget. It was a very interesting show. Another HGTV black hole that I used to fall into and like watching TV all day. And what got me into house flipping, by the way, because I started loving design and loving to be able to flip houses and implement it. But I think that show of all the shows was the best because when you watch house flipping shows, one of the things that they do commonly is they'll go buy tile that's like $8 a foot. A friend of mine did an episode of a flipping show, and he said that the producers of the show asked him to buy like special stuff that made the house really nice, so the finished product would be great, but it wasn't exactly a good business move, right? He had to do that for the show. So I realize now from the back scenes, kind of let me know what it's like when you're doing a flipping show. Well, a lot of them have pressure to buy stuff that's really expensive. But when we see it from the outside, we don't know that. We think that's just a good move to buy $7 and $8 square foot tile that's super cool looking but expensive. The reality is most of the time it's not. So Design on a Dime, I always love that because they only had $500, so they had to make this place look amazing for $500. So they did all kind of creative things. They price shop. They look for expensive tile that was on discount. Stuff that looks expensive, but maybe you get it for $1 or $2 a foot, but it looks like $8 a foot. Anytime we get something like that, we know we've won. Right? Something that just is more affordable because there's a few left or, anything that might be. And we see that all the time. And that's Design on a Dime for us is we're always looking for things that look great and look like we blew our budget. We want our competitors to walk through and be like, holy crap, Delante and Mike spent way too much on this. And if they think that, then we did our job, right? Because we didn't. We're always on budget. I would say our work is very affordable. Most people hear what we do houses for, and they're kind of like, that's kind of cheap, they would say. But when they see our finished product, then they're really confused because they're like, well, it don't look cheap. Like you didn't spend a lot of money, but you made it look amazing, right? So we do that through finding like tiles that look amazing. This requires a little bit of design skills because, you can't just go buy all the cheap stuff. Because some of the stuff actually looks legitimately cheap, right? It is cheap, but it looks cheap. And you can't buy anything that looks cheap. You got to buy stuff that looks amazing, but it's not cheap. So do you have any examples of that, Delante, that you can share?
I was just thinking of like that tan tile that you always see in like every rental ever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but the funny thing is like the tan tile that they put in the bathroom is like the most like nicest part of the house, like nicest part of the rental. Everything
Yeah.
else, it's like that plastic tile, like floppy stuff.
The sticky stuff, like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
the
sticky
sticky
towel.
tile. Yeah,
Yeah.
sticky tile. Oh my god, it makes me cringe thinking about it. But yeah, just like stuff like that. And I think even going down to what kind of tile you pick, like you said, can really make an impact on how nice your flip looks for how much you paid for. It's like a quality versus cost ratio.
Yeah, you want to get a lot of value, right? You want something to have high value. A lot of times when you're designing on a dime and you're keeping things really affordable, hey, HGTV, don't try to sue me because I'm using your name. I know it's your name. Just full disclosure, Design on a Dime's HGTVs. I didn't make this up. So I'm gonna come back like, hey guys, you're using my stuff. It's their show. I give them full credit. It's a great show. You should go check it out on YouTube. It's really cool, very entertaining. That's where I learned a lot of cool stuff from. But when you're buying great materials as the start, the second thing you can do is just be really thoughtful about planning out your renovation. Really good designed homes are thoughtful. They're not just paint everything tan, put cheap tan floor and tan carpet in, and then call it a day, right? That's going to be more like a rental grade. And that, or how I used to flip houses 10 years ago. That's how I used to do it. We just told a story about it. I bought one from 10 years ago, and it was pretty basic looking, honestly. So it's pretty interesting. You guys can go check it out. The address is 5404 Green Hill Avenue, 21206 in Baltimore, Maryland. Look it up on like Zillow, and you guys will see a house I did 10 years ago, and you'll get a feel for, well, how great my houses weren't. And I love showing that because everyone thinks because I'm good at this now that I've always been good. But the reality is that's not been the case. I've had to learn and get better. So I gave you guys an address just like so you know, like just popping it out there. But that'll always be on Zillow. You'll get to see it. If you hear this way too far in advance, you might see where I've actually renovated and made it better. So who knows? So cool stuff. But when you're designing on a dime, it's not just picking, it's being thoughtful. So for us, what we do now is we're always looking, is there an accent wall we can put in the house? Is there like some cool like trim we could do, like maybe a trim pattern on the wall? We do like some box trim sometimes. It looks really neat. Just all cool little things that can, when people walk in the house and they walk in that front door, want it to be very visually interesting, right? Want it to be very open, very visually interesting, you know, having contrast between the floors and the wall colors and the door colors and the ceiling, right? Not just painting everything one color. Just overall, like bringing some interest to the house, but using colors that go very well. I would say just switching from like the tans that we did for the first 4 or 5 years we were in business to switching to like all the grays you're seeing now and like all the different cooler colors. Well, that's like a big change. It just seems more modern, more efficient. It's what people really enjoy. It's very much associated with a higher level flip. And the tans are now very much associated with like something that's kind of out of date. So you're going to see that more in rentals. So I would say if you are painting your stuff tan, and maybe you personally love it, you know, unless you're like in a rural area, but if you're in a big city like Baltimore or any of the cities around us, or even just like a, you know, a neighborhood out where families live, getting away from the tan definitely is going to give you a higher end looking feel, right? Do you agree with that, Delante? You've seen some of the tan versus the gray, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it even still comes down to like it just looks older now. Like we're used to more of a modern look with our homes based on what we see on like HGTV and kind of like what the examples are and stuff like that. Even making the choice to like switch your color palette from tan to gray is a huge design upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. So doing that. And then obviously for us, another big thing is like just making sure we have awesome kitchens. So we put our focus into our design is in the bathrooms, kitchens, and then the great room, like when you first walk in the house, and master suites. If all those look amazing and we do some things to look like we put some extra attention, make sure we got nice closets and all that, we're going to win, man. Like, because so few flippers are really going above and beyond. Most flippers are doing one or two things. They're either going way above and spending the money accordingly and then asking for a lot more money for their flips, or they're just doing what most people do and just not really living up to the standard that's necessary. So we'll see two trains. I've seen people who overdo it, and the overdoers look very similar to my flip. They're just got a couple things, like you said, they might have got their marble from France and I might have got something that looks like marble from Home Depot for $2 a foot versus them paying $10 a foot. Honestly, a first-time home buyer doesn't know the difference. They're not going to be like, that's marble from France, I can tell. Like, I was there one time. It's something that you deal with when you're doing $1 million homes and more expensive stuff.
What do you think are some of the biggest places where house flippers can save money on their design choices? I know for a fact probably your countertops in your kitchen is one of them, right?
Yeah, countertops. I mean, obviously we use granite. Granite's going to be amazing. Some people like to use more expensive Curian or, you know, like really expensive. But if you just, in a first-time home buyer house, if you just put a nice looking granite that has good pattern, doesn't look cheap, it's more modern, you can get that for pretty affordable price and, you know, you keep your costs down. But look like you actually spent some money. One of the things that I hated about the house I did 10 years ago, it had that random tan granite that you see everywhere it's granite, but it don't even feel nice anymore. Because now we're using stuff like we're using a Corian that we get really affordable that looks like a Carrera marble. And we're using this other thing called Fantasy Gray, which just has this beautiful, expensive looking pattern. It doesn't have the tight little pattern. That's cheaper looking, but the more wavy big pattern, that actually looks like a lot more expensive granite. And often it is a more expensive granite, but there's a handful of granites you can get that have that wavy pattern, and they're a nice gray tone that fits all this new pattern that we, color palette that we do, but doesn't cost a lot of money, right? When you start using that kind of stuff, it looks like you've spent. Obviously doing 42-inch cabinets, and that's not where you're going to save money, but that's where you're going to add a lot of value, because these days you can get shaker cabinets 42-inch for $400 or $500 more, right? If you know where to get them and how to get them. Another thing would be in the custom design of the tile, right? You don't necessarily have to have expensive tiles, but if you're actually custom designing the tile in the bathrooms and in the floor and doing some stuff that makes it look higher end, like that's when people consider whether it's higher end tile or not. If you just put in 12 by 12s throughout the whole bathroom, well, that's not going to feel very high end. But if you take the 12 by 24s, which people really like now, and then maybe throw in like a soap dish in the middle where you inlay the inside and maybe put a border around it of like an accent tile, these things just look more custom, look more high end. And the cost of doing both of those things we just mentioned, like a few $100 max, often not hardly any money at all. Doing backsplashes are amazing. Just having any backsplash at all is going to look way better than not having a backsplash, doing something that really helps, make your kitchen pop. So all these little things start to add together. And when they add together, it's like somebody walks through your house and they get this warm, fuzzy feeling in their stomach that this person cares about this house and they've done a great job. And, we're getting something special. And it causes them to really want the house emotionally. And when they want it emotionally, they will fight for it and they will win very often. This is why it's so important that we design on a dime. We get to let some of our stuff out. But when we're doing it, our rule of thumb is when we put a lot of these extra things we just talked about in, we try to keep everything affordable, and we try to make sure everything that we do, like painting a wall, costs like $200. Putting box trim on another wall costs a couple $100, right? We like to do 5 or 6 of these items throughout the house and spend no more than $2,000 or $3,000 on them. And we know that all those little extra things that we only spent like $2,000 to $3,000 on are probably going to get us $10,000 to $15,000 more on our sale, right? Because none of our competitors are really going above and beyond unless they're going way overboard with it. So most people are just happy to deliver any product, right? Any finish, they're just like, I'm just so happy I'm done. They can't even think past like, oh, how could I go like to the next level? And they don't have to. They'll often get full price for their house, and their house will sell in this hot market. But what they're not experiencing that we are experiencing, like me and Delante are seeing a ton in the business here, is they're not experiencing getting 20 and 30K over list, and getting like the kind of 6 sales on your deals that will take your 40K profit deal into a 75 or 80K profit deal. The same deal, and the only reason we made more is because people got so competitive for the house that they were willing to pay way over list. And we're in Baltimore, by the way, so believe me, if I can do it in Baltimore, you can do it in almost any other town. This is the city where The Wire was created. So, they'll be like, well, Baltimore must be amazing. Well, Baltimore is amazing in many places, but Baltimore's like every other city. I have students all across the country, and they're seeing this exact same result happen no matter where they are, whatever economy they're in, because everywhere in the country right now is really hot. We're in a great economy, one of the greatest times you'll probably ever see.
So I've heard this, right? I've heard that when you put restrictions on yourself to do something, you actually come out with a better result and you get more creative in how to do it. And when you start to design your houses with your budget in mind, you start to get more creative, like you said, with how you can get things done with the materials that you have. So it's kind of like doing more with less, right? Getting more results with less materials, with less expense added to your rehabs, and really starting to bring out, like you said, all the profits that you can get out of your flip.
Yeah, great point. Think about it. If you spent, 15 or 20 hours on one of your flips researching cheap ways to make it look more cool, would that be worth it?
Yes.
Okay, I was hoping you were getting that answer.
I didn't know if you wanted me to answer, if it was kind of like,
oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, obviously, but so yes, it would be worth it. But the bigger part of it wouldn't even be that you spent the 15, 20 hours on that one flip. Well, every little technique that you learn from doing that, or you learn from a coach like me and Delante, well, you can now use it on every other flip you do. So that time is well invested when you're able to do that. And me, I have Tanya who works with me now, who's designing and doing all this stuff. And every single house, we look for opportunities to do something better. more. And we keep creating basically an arsenal of like all these cool things we can do for like a few $100 each. And now in our arsenal, in every house, we just go and say, oh, that would fit here. It's almost like cut and paste. And like we can just put it in because we've spent the last 4 or 5 months digging into this, and it's been well worth our time, right? And this is an awesome way to make every house really stand out. But the key is a lot of things, and we've also gotten the feedback of after we sold them, people saying we love that accent wall, we love this. If we're getting a lot of good feedback, then we'll do it again, right? If we get nobody saying anything or people say I hate it, obviously they say they hate it, we're going to get rid of it. But not saying anything is almost as bad as saying I hate it, because most people won't say anything negative. If they say they love it is the thing we're really looking for, because then we know they actually cared enough to say something. Cool stuff, man. Well, Delante, a big thanks for you, and also the Flip Factor family for listening, and I appreciate you joining us and sharing some cool stuff today. Obviously, we got a lot on this topic of construction and optimizing profits and cool stuff. If any of you guys who are listening, any of the listeners out there are thinking about getting into house flipping, or you're already flipping houses and you just want to get more consistent profits, make more money, feel free to reach out to me at mike@theflipfactor.net. That is my that's my email, right, Delante? Thanks for the help, buddy. I appreciate it. Like, I was having a senior moment here, and he's like, just let him flounder. It's okay. I'm not helping him at all. This is the guy knows he'll go do a design and forget where he is. So that's my email. Now that we've remembered that's my email. And then you can also go to our website where we have a lot of free training and other episodes from the podcast, theflipfactor.net. So very cool website that Delante developed for us, and I think it looks pretty cool. It's got a good looking guy on the front. I don't know who that is, but that guy definitely been photoshopped, though. We know that much. We know that much. So seriously, though, getting serious, I really appreciate your time. I know you have a lot of options out there when it comes to listening to the podcast. I hope that you've gotten a lot of value from this episode and that you're taking a lot from it. We appreciate you listening to the show, and I hope that it's helping you in your flipping journey. And we always appreciate any good reviews on iTunes if you feel like giving that to us. And I really want everyone to just keep getting out there and making some money and improving your business and really living the kind of life you want to live as a house flipper. And it's a big part of what this show's about. So my work is done here and yours has just begun. I'm Michael Green. Thank you for listening to the Flip Factor podcast. Have a great weekend, everyone.